Hello, everyone. This is Gina Alanata with Wink Women Incorporated. I'm super excited today. I get to interview Stephanie Lee of the Lee Method. And I've known Stephanie for, I think, at least 10 years, Stephanie. It's been a while, hasn't it?
It
And
has. I think it has been about that long. Yeah,
and you've moved on. We met in San Diego area, and you're now in Arizona, I
I
believe. So
am.
you're a Zoni, as we call you in the San Diego area. Oh, so Stephanie is a healthy weight loss behavior coach. I want you to
hmm
talk about that because, um, especially for women, right? You focus on women, but that is a big
Yes.
issue for women, and especially I'm over 50. So for those of us that are over 50, talk a little bit about, because I know you shared with me, talk a little bit about your journey. Like, how did you get started in this? Were you always into health and fitness and like, working out? Share a little bit about your journey and how you got here in this particular industry.
Okay. So it really started actually when I was quite young. And I was, whether you call it compulsive overeating, emotional eater, binge eater, whatever, it doesn't, whatever the title is, it doesn't really matter. The behavior is the same. Um, and just as a kid, for example, I was always into the candy, stopped at the penny candy store on my way home from school. I'd get up, sometimes our family would stay with my grandmother. We'd do family things together, and I would get up before everybody else and have what I could fix as a kid for breakfast, which is usually some kind of sugary cereal. And then when the family got up, we'd have the big breakfast with the pancakes and the eggs and the sausage and, just all the things. And I would eat that too. And so over the years, and especially as I got into my teen years where things got to be a little challenging, I really started having issues with my weight because up to that point, boys weren't really in the picture. And then all of a sudden now boys are in the picture. And what I looked like started to really matter to me. And so I would go on these super extreme diets. Back in the day, we had, the cabbage soup diet and all those crazy, crazy diets. And I always had success, but of course, they were never things that I could maintain long term. So, fast forward to many years later, go through college, get out of college, and I started working out. And but I was real inconsistent with it. I would, do it a little bit and then I'd stop and, back and forth. But my eating habits never really changed. I was still struggling with the overeating. And so finally, in my late 30s, I decided I wanted to become a fitness instructor. I loved the classes and I love the camaraderie and the group environment. And I thought, I want to do this. And so I gave myself 4 years to become fit. And I don't know that I was like totally fit at the time, but I was definitely, in better shape at that point than I was when I first had the idea. So I became an instructor at the age of 40. So I had a little bit of a late start there.
Mhm.
And then as time went on, I've been teaching for a long time, over
That's good. We
25
don't, we're not
years.
the good numbers there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely well over 25 years. But in that process, I have still struggled with the food. And I had this revelation one day that because people would look at me and think I'd never had a problem or still didn't have a problem just because I looked the part, plus I, had the title of a fitness instructor. And so I decided that I really need to tell my story and for people to understand that what you see on the outside isn't always necessarily what's, going on for everyone on the inside. And so in that process of starting to write my book, I was really faced with how can I help people to have a better, healthier life. I mean, I'm seeing these staggering numbers coming out of obesity in this country. I mean, almost to 50% of adults in this country. And all of the diseases that go with that, that are things that we just don't have to have. We don't have to have high blood pressure and diabetes, and unless you're born with it. But things like that, we can have a healthy, vibrant life well into our latter years. We don't have to go into our latter years thinking, well, I'm just getting old. That's just the way it is. Like, no, it's not. It doesn't have to be like that. And so I wanted to find ways to be able to help people find a better way for themselves. And I found this program that was like a perfect match for what I was looking for, in the sense that it it married the fitness side with the psychology of weight loss. So it's not just, I mean, most of us know what to do to lose weight, right? I mean, we kind of at least have some idea,
Yeah.
but we don't do it. And so that was always the question to me. Well, why? Like, what can I do? There's a missing piece. What can I do to help people to take that next step? And
Mhm.
that's when I found the Healthy Behavior Institute. And so the program was designed by a personal trainer and a behavioral psychologist. And they came together and developed this amazing program that takes into account the whole human being. So it's not just about, let's just change what you're eating, because clearly that doesn't work. We've tried that how many times?
Mhm.
So what we need to really look at is the whole person. So we have relationships, we have stressors in our life, we have work, we have parents maybe that we're taking care of, all of those things that impact us. And it's for us to then try to incorporate some kind of diet that's foreign to us, and then just throw it in to the mix there. Let's just stress ourselves out even more. Right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So my goal is to not have you do that, but instead of going from 0 to 60, how about we go from 0 to 1? And then we can add on from there. Maybe we'll get to 60, maybe we won't. We might not have to. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. And so, okay, so talk to me a little bit about what your modalities are. I know you do yoga, right? As one of the things you train as far as fitness.
Pilates.
You do Pilates.
I do mat Pilates. I know most people think I'm a yoga instructor because I'm so zen, but
So
I don't teach yoga. Yeah.
it's mat Pilates.
hmm
Okay, talk to me about that. I don't even know what that is. And I'll bet a lot of people
Yeah.
that are going to see this video won't have a clue what that is. So tell me about that.
Yeah. So it's Pilates. So when you think of Pilates, kind of the more formal version is with the equipment, the reformer being usually kind of the main piece of equipment. Well, we kind of take those moves and put them on a mat without a reformer. And then recently, I took a training that just has blown me away. But what she's done is taken the concept of working on a reformer, and she's developed this program called the Human Reformer. So we use straps and tubing as if we're using a reformer, but we're still on a mat, and that's the only piece of equipment that we use. So we're still doing the hundreds, we're still doing, roll ups, whatever you can think of as a typical Pilates move. The thing that I really like to talk about in that regard is a lot of times when we see photos of people doing Pilates, we see the V sit, with the legs straight up and the back straight up. Most people can't do that. And I think that's very intimidating for a lot of people. So I don't start there. So just so you know, we start way, way slower. And again, we just build up very slowly, very much like my weight loss program.
So talk about your weight loss program. How is that? Do you like incorporate all of that at the same time, or do you start with one thing first and then you move, like you were saying, instead of going, 1 to 60, let's do 0 to 1?
Yeah. So instead of me deciding for you what's important to you,
Hmm.
we do an assessment. It's a very short, simple assessment. And what it does is identify your top two priorities right now. So one of them being on the physical side, if you will, and then one of them being on the more mental, emotional side. And then those are the two things that we tackle first because those are the things that are most important to you.
Hmm.
And again, I'm going to use ice cream as an example because it works really well. But if, and a lot
I
of
just had
people
ice cream last night. Were you peeking into my house?
a lot of people resonate with that example. Uh, so if you, and I'm not using you specifically
No,
as an
hey,
example of
use
this,
me.
but
I don't care. That's fine.
as some, if someone, let's say, eats a quart of ice cream every night, my goal is to not come in and say, you can't do that. You have to stop doing that. My goal is to find out, first of all, why are you eating a pint of ice cream every night? There's a reason. We don't do behavior just to do behavior. We always have a reason for it.
Hmm.
And a lot of times with things like ice cream, it's the texture. It's very soothing and comforting. And so maybe we're not getting that in some other way. So instead of taking ice cream completely out of the picture, we still need to have that soothing feel to whatever we're eating. So instead of taking the ice cream out, let's say it's Ben and Jerry's, we can substitute that with a lower calorie, lower fat version that still tastes good and still gives you that same sensation. So you're not feeling deprived and you're not feeling like you have to make some major life changes. You can still have your quart of ice cream every night. But what happens over time, Gina, is as we start to incorporate these little tiny steps, little tiny steps, as we start to incorporate those, eventually you just don't want that quart of ice cream anymore. And if you do, you feel like you can have it and it's not going to be, something that is just going to take you completely off track. However, having said that, there
Hmm.
are those of us that can have foods in moderation, and those of us, me one of them, who cannot. We don't have a limit. We we start and we just go till we just can't do anymore. And
Yeah.
so
I would
once we're
imagine
able to
somebody that
identify
has
that, yes, yes.
bulimia, things
And
like that. And yeah, I
yeah,
mhm,
exactly,
know
exactly.
the
And
term for
so
that.
once we identify that, if you're able to do things in moderation, great, then we can incorporate things that way. But if not, then we just have to handle it a little bit differently. But again, there's always options. There's always options.
Hmm. Hmm. Gosh, my brain is
You
spinning. We only have so much time when I do interviews. And this is what happens when I interview people. It's like, oh my gosh, my brain just goes here and I've got this question and that. And there's all the, and then I'm thinking, okay, you need to talk to this person and that person. And okay, we're going to
know.
go through some questions so we can get through the questions at least. And we
Okay.
may come back around to some of this because I know people that have dealt with bulimia and
Hmm.
anorexia and
Hmm.
other eating disorders. And
Hmm.
to me, I liken it's an addiction, just like any other
Hmm.
addiction.
It
Stuff going on in the
is.
brain, and so for you to
Yeah.
work with that,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I would imagine you'd have to go 0 to 1. You can't go 0 to 60 because then you're going to relapse, right? And
Hmm.
have,
Hmm.
and that can be deflating. Which I think for a lot of people that struggle
Yes.
with weight, that's
Yes.
probably an ongoing challenge, right? You do
Yes.
great, you
It
eat
is
good,
because
and
yeah. So you've tried this, you've tried that, and for a lot of people, they've given up. And I understand that. I mean, it's so frustrating. You have success in the beginning, usually, because you're highly motivated and you're doing it. and then something comes into your life and it kind of knocks you off, and then you get derailed and you start not having success. And then the thing is, and this is the thing that just we start blaming ourselves. And that's not realistic. We've already set ourselves up by putting ourselves in a situation with a diet that is really not sustainable from get-go. But we think it is because we had success in the beginning. So we think, oh, it's me, I'm just a failure, or, whatever words you decide to use.
Mhm.
And none of that's true. None of that is true. So now bulimia and, other things like that are require a little bit more medical attention than I'm capable of, but on the other end of the spectrum with obesity, we're finding that a lot more people are starting to recognize, well, the medical community in particular is starting to recognize that this is a medical condition and starting to treat it as such. But they can only do so much. And then, the person needs some support along the way. So that's really more the direction that I'm ultimately heading in.
Mhm. Okay, I have a question for you that it's not even on my list because I see a lot of this, and to me, I want to say it's, I don't know that you would call it an excuse, but people that will say, well, fat shaming, you shouldn't be fat shaming people. And my mentality is, you're right, we shouldn't shame anybody, but if I'm doing something that is unhealthy and potentially life threatening, I would hope somebody would keep me accountable and not just say, oh, keep eating, the 2 quarts of ice cream a day, and now you're 300 pounds and got all these health issues, and just let's just look the other way and pretend like nothing's happening. How do you address that? Because I feel like we are in a society now where people say, oh, well, don't fat shame me or don't fat shame people. And it's kind of an excuse to say, I'm going to live my unhealthy lifestyle. You can say nothing about it. That's just my
Mhm.
interpretation.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that?
Mhm. It's a difficult um, thing because the individual really has to make that decision that they want to live their lives differently. Now, some people, what? Well, so as we eat unhealthy foods, over time, our body gets used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And while the unhealthy food is still doing damage, we don't feel it. And so we don't feel as though anything's wrong
Mm-hmm.
until we start to make changes. And then when you're going back and forth between the two ways of eating, then you can really see, when you bring in those unhealthy foods again, you can really see how differently your body responds to it. It's like, whoa, what was that? But aside, and I understand that, family members may have some concerns, but it's like anything, whether somebody's smoking, drinking, whatever they're doing, aside from a pure on intervention, you just have to walk delicately.
Yeah.
Um, I think a huge part of it is showing living by example. So you can't be telling somebody, don't eat that Kentucky Fried Chicken and then bring home Kentucky Fried Chicken. You just have to, yeah, yeah. So I think that's a huge, huge part of it, especially for family members and friends. So somebody you're really close to who really would value what you're doing. So if you're demonstrating that lifestyle, they're much more likely to follow suit, maybe not immediately, but much more likely down the road. And then they can decide how they want to proceed. And again, it doesn't have to be, today I'm eating Kentucky Fried Chicken, tomorrow I'm eating broccoli and boiled chicken. It doesn't have to be that. There's a whole lot of space in between where how how we make those changes. And you may not ever get to the broccoli and boiled chicken, although personally I love boiled chicken because I like putting all the herbs and stuff in it. But
Um,
but that's just me.
maybe you need to share some recipes with us later as well.
Yes.
It would be
Yeah,
amazing.
I would be happy to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think when you get people like I grew up where vegetables came out of a can.
Hmm.
They weren't
Yes.
fresh bought at the store. I mean, we went through phases when we were very um, poor at one point in our lives growing up.
Hmm.
My mom used to do all the fresh, and then things
Hmm.
were out of a can, like your vegetables, even biscuits out of a
Yeah.
can, and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That was life, and when you're raised that way,
Yes.
that's normal.
Yes.
That way of cooking is normal, and
Yeah.
it's a lot cheaper. Have you noticed? I'm sure you know this.
Hmm.
The unhealthy
Sadly.
eating is so much
Hmm.
cheaper. You go to McDonald's, you buy a burger for $1, or you get a salad for
Yeah.
$6.
Yes. Yes. You
Oh,
know, sadly, that is so, so true. And you're right. I mean, when I was growing up, my my father had an ulcer, so my mom would like really cook the vegetables so they were soft and easy for him to digest. And it wasn't until years later when I went to live on my own that I realized vegetables were supposed to be green after they were cooked, not gray. It's like,
right.
wow. Yeah. And then, my mom worked full time too. And so, when canned goods came along, that was, her savior. So I know a lot of that happens today too. We have, families working two jobs and single moms, things like that, just
Mhm.
don't have time to spend in the kitchen. But I have some really cool, super quick recipes because I am a lazy cook.
Same.
Mm.
Lazy cook. It's funny because I don't like to cook. I will, but I don't like to cook. I'm very.
Mhm.
My son loves to cook, thank goodness. So we let him do some
Oh,
cooking.
nice.
I know, 22. He loves to cook. Okay, let's get through some more questions, and then there's. I feel like this is such there's it's such a broad topic. There's so many things we can cover under this umbrella of what you do. Um, okay, let's talk about the role of mentorship. Did you have anybody in your life that was kind of a mentor, whether in the health and fitness industry or as an entrepreneur? Because you are your own boss as an entrepreneur and you got to be self motivated to do what you do. So, did mentorship
Mhm.
come in anywhere for you? And if so, what did that look like? And who is there an individual, or I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, and it's funny that you asked that question because I was thinking about this the other day. And while I've not had like formal mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
There have been people that I've followed and whose ideals I really value and want to emulate. And way back when there was an instructor, a fitness instructor, who she was quite a bit older than me, and at that time, and I was just so impressed that she was, teaching and being so active. And I thought, I want that. I want to be that when
Mm-hmm.
I get older. And so there was that. And then in terms of entrepreneurship, kind of what happened for me was I was working for Chase Manhattan Bank doing outside sales in their student loan division. And so while I had a job, I set my own schedule. I, did my own visits. And as long as I was bringing money in, nobody bothered me. Well, I got a taste of that freedom. And I thought, oh, I like this. So,
Mm-hmm.
so that's where that little nugget got put in my head to look into doing my own thing. Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it is. You do get a taste of that, and ooh, it's hard to go back to 9 to 5, 8 to 5, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I have though. I mean, I've flipped back and forth, and you do what you got to do.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
entrepreneurship is not an easy journey. You
It's
know,
not.
People look
No,
at it
it's
and
not.
they assume that they're already there, and it's like no,
Yeah.
there's something back here you don't even know about that that's going
Yeah.
on that I'm doing.
Yes.
Oh
And
my
something I
goodness.
found too, hadn't really thought about initially, but coaches need coaches.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of finding that right fit. And I finally found someone who I work really well with, and she's been incredibly supportive. And she's one of those people who is capable of giving feedback in an incredibly positive way. So you
Mhm.
feel very uplifted, but at the same time, she gives you enough that, okay, this is how we can make this even better. But it took a little while to find that. So, but it's worth the journey, I
Yeah.
think. Mm.
Yeah. I agree. There's a Yeah, good coaches, they're worth they're worth it. That is very
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
Um, and I agree. We all need coaches. Because I mean, you think about pro athletes, right? They all have coaches. Um,
yeah,
the psychology of
exactly.
what they do and the physical side of what they do, and but
Yeah,
then we get into business and we think, oh, I can do this all on my own, and then you start stumbling and falling, and you're like, okay, where
yes,
can you go from here? And a coach can see that for you,
right,
whatever it is.
right,
Um,
right. Yeah.
So, talk about was there a pivotal point in your journey, in your business journey, whether it's financial or personal or whatever? What was that pivotal turning point in your journey, and how did it influence your growth as an entrepreneur? And for
I
some
would,
of us, there's like an actual like, oh, this was it, and for some, maybe not.
it's been very recent and very, very recent. And um, coming to believe in myself and what I have to offer. I haven't always. I've always, not always, but for a lot of the time I felt like I wasn't enough and I didn't like what I had to offer. Like who would want that? Who would listen to what I have to say? And so it kept me quiet for a long, long time. And I think you probably know well how very introverted I am.
Hmm.
So being willing to put myself out there, even having this interview with you, would have been overwhelming to me even just a year ago. And so I think I can't put my finger on a specific incident. I think it was just over time, as I started learning how to do more Facebook Lives and I already teaching fitness, I'm already in front of people, but somehow that was different. And so being able to incorporate some of that um, confidence in what I do here has really helped a lot.
Yeah, sometimes it's a slow journey for some of us.
Yeah.
And not everybody that you see front and center. I have learned. My husband and I were talking about this the other day. He used to be on stage. He used to run sports ministries at a pretty large church here in San Diego years ago, and he didn't like it in the beginning either. He was terrified. Now
Uh-huh.
he's super comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. If I'm in an environment that I know the people and I'm comfortable, that's one thing. If I'm in
Hmm.
an environment that I don't know people, I'm like, show me the door.
Yes. Yes.
But people
Yeah.
don't know that they don't know until they get to know you, and working, like you're saying, working through those things just a little at a time, you
Yeah.
know and that belief you're growing in yourself, and
Yeah.
hopefully people, and it sounds like your coaches, hopefully people are feeding into that, saying, Stephanie, you do have a lot to offer, and your voice needs to be heard, and people need
Yeah.
to know you. Like, I love you. Like, you to me are just such a calm and a peace. Like, I
Oh.
just feel comfortable. And not everybody can make you feel that way, right? Some people,
Hmm.
oh, it's like bristly.
Uh-huh.
But that's not
Yeah.
that's not how I feel when I'm around you. You have this
Oh.
presence about you that is like home, like
Oh,
home.
I'm so
So
glad to hear that. Yay.
yeah, yeah. Okay, we gotta keep going because I could just
Okay.
keep going on that too. Okay, share a story or an example of a major business decision you made that significantly impacted your financial growth as an entrepreneur.
I would say hands down, moving. so while I still teach the fitness, it has become less of a focus, and then switching my focus more to the healthy weight loss behavior coaching has really begun to make a difference. I think it taps into a little bit more of my own personal experience, lifetime experience. And I think that has really helped me to be able to move forward in a way that fitness wasn't. I mean, even though I would try to convince people that I start slow, I'm not gonna, push you into doing something. I just found there was a lot of resistance, a lot more resistance to that than to the weight loss.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Okay. Wow. All right, let's talk about your marketing and sales approaches. This is something that as an entrepreneur we have to do, right? We don't get an, I mean, some of us we can pawn it off on somebody else and pay somebody else to do it. But usually in the beginning we do it all ourselves, because we're kind of that struggling entrepreneur. And,
Yeah.
unless you get somebody giving you a huge loan that you don't have to pay back, which is nice. I
Yes.
don't think that's happened to too many people. So talk about what if you're doing anything creative, like marketing strategy wise, what are your sales approaches? Because this kind of stuff really helps women in business to think outside the box and try something new or different. So talk about what
Yeah.
you've been doing and what's worked for you.
So I'm super excited. This is actually hasn't started yet. So I'm anticipating it's going to work. But I am starting a Facebook group, but my goal is to make it not like any other group. So I want the group to be like a community. Like we come together only virtually, but we come together, support each other, have fun, have resources, talk about recipes, things like that. But also, I want to do like some educational games, maybe even bingo once a month, just some fun things that we can do.
Yes.
And one of the things that I've been working on is doing Facebook Lives. I mean, it really is, um, what's the word I want? There's more to it than it would appear. When you watch people who are really good at doing Facebook Lives, there's definite elements to it that make it um, approachable, engageable. I don't even know if that's a word, but it um, it it looks easy for people who are good at it and
Right.
have done it for a while. So I've been working on that and working on having that help me to be able to get the word out so people can get to know me and have a sense of how I might be as a coach, just because if they can see how I am as a human being in my Facebook lives, I'm anticipating that that's gonna help. So that combination of things going forward is really where I'm putting a lot of my effort right now.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would agree with you. The Facebook lives, they're not easy, you know,
Yeah.
especially for somebody who's an introvert, right? It's like, oh
Yes.
my gosh, just stab me in the eye or something because there's no way I want to. And
Yeah.
the thing is, you can do a Facebook Live and there can be nobody there. Uh,
Right.
to me, that's more scary having nobody on a Facebook Live because you're talking
Yes.
to nobody, right? As
Just
opposed to
talking to that
being
little
private.
dot there. Yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to you like you've got a whole bunch of people like, all right, they're on here, they're engaged, they like what I'm
Yeah.
saying. When you have
Yeah.
nobody on a Facebook Live, you're going, okay, I'm talking to myself
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And so you're right. There are some people that are so good at it. And some
Mhm.
I'm still working on that myself. I don't feel
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
achieved it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I
The
think
other
you're right,
thing,
and it does allow people to get to know you better,
yes.
faster.
Yes. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. The other thing that I mentioned earlier that I'm working on a book that is part of my story, the first half of the book, and then the second half of the book is really kind of starting to incorporate some of the things that we can do to make changes in our lives. So some of the things that I do as a coach. I'll be including in part two of the book. And the title of the book is Confessions of a FAT, frustrated and tenacious fitness instructor. And so I'm really looking forward to getting that out there. It'll have incorporated in it a little bit of a workbook because I ask a lot of the book is written in more a conversational style. So I ask a lot of questions like, has that ever happened to you? Or, things like that. So I'm going to be incorporating a little bit more of a workbook within the book so people can actually answer those questions for themselves. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. And then I have been doing some writing for San Diego Woman magazine. I have several pieces out over the last year, probably 2 years. I've put several articles out, and I love that magazine. And so it's just been really an honor to be able to contribute to it as well.
That is great.
Mhm.
I love the title, Fat, Frustrated and Tenacious. I mean,
Yeah,
even just the title, Confessions of a Fat Fitness Instructor. I think that's what you said.
yeah,
And because people don't think of a fat fitness instructor,
yes.
that's
Yeah.
going to get people's attention with the title alone. So, very smart. Oh, okay. So let's talk about what advice would you have for aspiring female entrepreneurs who are just starting their
Uh,
entrepreneurial journey?
Probably, depending on your confidence level, it could be one of the most challenging things to do is that is to believe in yourself. Just believe. There's a reason that we have the ideas that we have. We don't like you haven't wanted to be a fitness instructor, right? So there's reasons, yeah, why we choose what we choose. And I believe that's a part of our mission, a part of um our shining star, if you will, for our life. And but we get shut down in so many different ways, and then we can start questioning, start doubting, and I think at the very least, if you can believe in yourself and just keep going, keep putting one foot in front of the other and see I think you'll see the fruition of your dreams. Yeah.
And piggybacking off that, I have found for me personally, because I think we are our own worst enemy sometimes as an entrepreneur, is finding a supportive community that believes in you also. You know,
Yes.
um, I know for
Yeah.
myself that has been my tribe of women within Wink, and whether it's Wink for somebody or some other organization, your church, whatever it is, but having that tribe around you that when you do have the down days, because you're gonna have
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
they continue to remind you of why you do what you do. And yeah, you're the one gifted as a fitness and personal trainer, Stephanie, not me. Have I ever thought
Yeah.
about it? Yeah, but I'll never do it. It's not what I'm called to do. you know, but I can encourage you and help move you
hmm
along in that journey,
hmm
right? And so having that
Yeah.
community around you to say, yeah, you're doing great. Keep doing what you're
Yes.
doing. You've influenced me. You've influenced others. Don't
Yeah.
stop. And
Yeah.
also I think for all of us, but especially introverts, and there's going to be some
hmm
introverts that watch this. I know them. Don't be afraid to reach out to people when you're having those really tough times.
Yes.
Short little message,
Yes.
quick little text, whatever. Just say, and ask for some words of encouragement or something, because
Yeah.
like we were talking before, right? We tend to just shut down sometimes. Some of us we
Right.
shut down
Right.
and disappear,
Yeah.
and nobody knows
Yeah. That's
when you're
right.
having hard times.
That's right. It's so true. And I really miss the live wing events. I have always had an affinity for Wink because
Mhm.
it's a very unique group of women. It's not all about me. And I've loved that about the group. And so when you had the mixer last week, I was like, oh. Wongle.
Oh, by the way, I opened the box before we raffled it off. I opened the box. Those cards were amazing. Do you do that?
Oh,
Like, do you do those and sell those, or is it just like a little side hobby that you do?
it's a side hobby right now. I've toyed with the idea of selling them, but right now it's a side hobby, and so I just enjoy sharing. Yeah.
They're great. I wanted to keep them, but I didn't. I raffled them, and I don't remember who won, but I have a picture of who won them, so you'll find out. And
Okay.
I'll get you in contact with that person. But yeah, um,
Okay.
and that's another area I'm not gifted in is crafts and that kind of stuff. I wish I were, but
I used to not be either. Yeah,
oh
I
really?
found this one. This card making seems to be
Okay,
the thing. I found it during COVID and seems to be the thing that fits for me.
nice.
Hmm.
Okay, I have one more question for you, and then if there's anything you want to share that we did not cover, I mean, we could
Okay.
spend hours. I feel like I could spend more out, just more time. Such good stuff with you.
Thank you.
So, and ironically, I was just at an event last night. My husband and I were at an event last night, and this came up, the word legacy and also significance, but legacy. As a woman in business, what do you want your legacy to be? And maybe it's not even business related, just life. What would you like your legacy? This is a really big question.
Hmm.
What would
Hmm.
that be for you?
So obesity in this country is rapidly approaching 50% of our adult population. 20% of our children are being identified as obese. And I would love for people to understand that they can have a healthy life and it doesn't have to be hard or difficult. Simple as that, really.
Mm,
Mm.
mm. Yep, I know a lot of people that could really use you and your services and what you provide. I mean, my brain is just spinning with ideas. So how can we as a community of women business, how to refer you, recommend you? I know you have your website, the Lee Method, which your name is Stephanie Lee. What a
Yeah.
great name, website, the Lee Method. How can we, you know, get the word out about Stephanie and the Lee Method?
So definitely that the my website and contact me. Just and on my website there's a little phone and a picture of me, and you can click on different buttons. You can text or email or however you want to communicate with me. And I respond pretty quickly, and let's just get the conversation going. Just just that. I mean, you don't have to commit to anything out the gate, but we can at least start talking and let's find out what your goals are and where you would like to be and so forth.
Yeah, and to me, you are the most non-threatening fitness personal trainer ever. Like, you know how some people you'll watch and you're like, oh gosh, they're going to kick my butt. There's absolutely no way I would step into a class with them. I don't feel that with you, Stephanie, at all. Plus, I know you, so I know that you wouldn't. You still push people, but it's in a
I
more
do.
gentle, loving
It's
way.
funny because so often I'll hear people say, "Thought you were nice."
I think you are.
I
Oh my
am.
goodness.
I am.
Ah, okay, well, that is all the questions I have. Is there anything that you want to share that we didn't cover about yourself, about your business, entrepreneurship, anything before we
Yeah,
end?
I think just something to consider, that it's really important that you know yourself, and that's going to help in terms of any kind of changes that you want to make in your life, especially towards a healthy lifestyle. And sometimes we need others to help us see that because a lot of times we can't see ourselves more than other people can see it. Other people tend to be able to see us a little bit better. And especially somebody who's not a friend or a family member. So, it's a little easier when it's not that person. Um,
Yeah, that can be tough because sometimes we can be a little bit more harsh and critical when it comes
mhm.
to when it's somebody close to us. Not always, not always.
Right, right.
But yeah, you're right. That is a good point.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Stephanie, thank you so much for today. I know that this is going to really bless a lot of people. I just adore you.
Mm.
And I'm so
Oh,
glad to have you back now that Wink is back, in the community and,
yes.
just continue to do what you're doing and share your story because you are such a light to
Mm.
so many people. Um,
Thank you.
so
Thank you.
I'm gonna share you with as many as
All
I can.
right. All
So
right. Thank you, Gina. I really appreciate it.
you bet we will see you online and hopefully we'll see you at an in-person event, whether you're back in San Diego or we may be coming to your way in Arizona soon. So
Oh, yay.
yeah, I'll talk
Oh,
to you about that. So
that would be awesome. Yeah.
so
And I'm guessing that it's okay to like post recipes and things like that in the group.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we're gonna end here and then I'm gonna come back and chat with you for a minute. So
Okay.
thank you so much, Stephanie.
All
The Lee
right.
Method, everybody check it out, theleemethod.com. That's
Mhm.
Stephanie's website. Go and check it out. Send her a text or an email. Get to know her. I seriously, ladies, she is the most non threatening personal trainer, fitness person that I know. And she's a safe place to do what you need to do to get yourself well, healthy, mentally, physically, all of that. So thank you so much for our interview today. You are amazing. I love you. And we'll
Thank you.
see you
Love you
online for
too.
sure. All right. Bye,
Okay.
Stephanie.
Bye.